Quitting my job was easily one of the most challenging but rewarding things that I have ever done in my life, and I think it could be the same for you too. But this is definitely not something that I think is for everyone. Before I tell you what I learned from quitting my job and watching others do the same, we need to keep it real. Quitting your job is not a way to avoid facing a problem in your life or a band-aid solution to a personal issue. I think irresponsibly quitting your job can most definitely make your life worse. So please consider this decision very carefully before you do something like this. Going out on your own, starting a business or changing careers is probably going to be one of the most challenging things that you will ever do in your life. But like I said, it can also be one of the most rewarding things you will do. So in this video, I'm going to give you a step-by-step breakdown of how I was able to quit my corporate job and live a life of challenging fulfillment. First, if you're new to the channel, I'll quickly give you some background on myself so you can kind of understand the context of where I'm coming from. To keep a long story short, I always knew that I didn't want to pursue a traditional path in life. Finding a stable job, get married, house, kids, all that kind of typical trajectory stuff didn't really speak to me. But I couldn't figure out a way out of this. So for a period of time, I worked in corporate finance, drudging through day after day of just dull monotony for about $45,000 to $70,000 per year. Then, by following the steps that I will share with you in this video, I basically said, peace out, y'all. And now I create work that I hope impacts the world positively, and I'm making much more income in the process. If you want a more full backstory on that, you can watch this video here, which I made shortly after taking the big leap. It's pretty cool to look back on now. Now, before we get into the steps, let me quickly preface it by saying that this is how I did it. I don't think it's the only way to do it. Obviously, I think this is a good way to do it, but definitely consider some other perspectives out there. So, as the saying goes, take what you find useful and then leave the rest. This might seem like a bit of a given, but I seriously don't think that many people understand this. Quitting your job, presumably to start your own business or change careers or anything like that, is probably not going to make your life easier. Quite the contrary, it's probably going to make it much more difficult. My old job was very easy, like an absolute cakewalk compared to what I'm doing right now. And honestly, sometimes I miss that low stress environment of working at my old job, but then I remember what the absolute hell it is to work in a corporate environment, and then I snap out of it. Maybe you'll get lucky, who knows? But in my experience and other experiences that I've seen, going out on your own is damn hard. It's a humbling experience, honestly. You have to be willing to sacrifice a lot, endure a lot. Basically endure 12 rounds in the ring with Mike Tyson. There's no HR department. There's no designated lunch break. There's no 9 to 5 work hours. There's only you and what you're willing to put up with. It had better be a lot. These first two steps are conceptual, but don't worry. There's going to be some practical ones coming up, but they're very important. Do not skip out on these. What the heck do you actually plan to do once you quit? And how exactly is that thing going to bring you income, fulfillment, or whatever else it is that you're searching for? I believe this must be very clearly defined. For example, I knew exactly what I was going to be attempting to do when I quit my job. My goal: make financial education accessible to as many people as possible. How would I do this? Create a YouTube video series breaking down complicated financial topics in an easily digestible way. And where would my income come from exactly doing this? Well, it would come from YouTube AdSense, affiliate links, brand deals, any products that I would create, like my course, etc. Now, if you're having trouble answering some basic questions like this and defining them clearly, then I think at this point we need to say, hold up. You got some work to do before you make a serious life decision. Fortunately, if you're feeling a little bit unsure about what it is exactly you want to do or what type of business you want to create or anything like that, today I actually have a really cool resource to share with you. It's called Trends. I've partnered with Trends on this video because they have such an interesting platform to help aspiring or current entrepreneurs, as well as anybody who's just trying to stay ahead of the curve professionally. Honestly, part of me kind of wanted to keep Trends a secret because it's that interesting. It's kind of like a secret weapon. So the best way to describe what Trends is kind of like this. Imagine thousands of entrepreneurs and interesting people all got together on a website, networked with each other, built curated lists of useful things together, and analyzed the latest trends in the world. For example, they have these really cool data posts called signals. Signals are notable trends appearing in the world, such as an explosion in interest in the concept of NFT insurance that's happening right now. So it's really interesting, sometimes pretty niche information that you would most likely get well ahead of that information actually becoming mainstream. And then with their community that they've put together, they give you the opportunity to network with awesome people, and all these people actually can come together and create these really amazing curated lists in what they call the vault. I mean, look at this spreadsheet with all of these business ideas. This is wild. So if you're struggling to figure out what exactly it is you want to do after you quit your job, or if you're wondering how can you take your business to that next level, you might want to look into Trends. And it turns out I got a little deal for you. If you check out the link in the description down below, you can get 7 days access to Trends for only $1. Thank you so much to Trends for sponsoring this video, and I hope you guys find it really interesting. All right, so once we fully steeled ourselves and understood the challenge that we are facing ahead of ourselves, and then we've clearly defined the direction we want to head in, it's time to make sure that we can actually get there. What I mean by this is you need to do the math to make sure what you're trying to do actually makes sense. For me, I calculated that if my videos reached X amount of people, then I'd probably earn X amount of money from this source, X from this, X from that, and I'd be able to do this from that and this from that. And then I saw by running all these various kind of numbers and scenarios and calculations that what I was trying to do was actually a reasonable and realistic pursuit. Not easy by any means, but it was reasonably possible. Now, I think it's very important that you don't just pull these numbers out of your butt. You need to find real world examples and then use those numbers to bring them back into your own scenarios. For me personally, I looked at a whole bunch of different people on YouTube and basically determined exactly how they were making their money, what number of views they were getting, what CPMs they were getting, so that could tell me how much revenue from AdSense and all kinds of things like that. So you'll need to run various scenarios for yourself. Like for example, if you're selling products, what price am I going to sell these products for? What's a reasonable estimate for the amount of products I can sell? How much are these products probably going to cost me? Are these numbers all realistic? I really recommend doing a complete market analysis to ground your idea in reality. And when you do this analysis, do not do it with the assumption that the world is perfect. Instead, I think you should do it with the assumptions that the world is actually a type of world where it's like, oh no, I just spilled coffee on my white shirt. It is so important that this analysis be grounded in reality before you give yourself the green light to go ahead with this, because if it is not, when you quit your job and try to do this, you will snap back to reality faster than Slim Shady. Now, with the prep work over, I think it's time to begin. I would personally recommend, if you can, to start working on the next phase of your life before you quit your job. I spent basically all my free time working on my YouTube channel before I quit my job. That meant even my bus rides to work, my evenings after work, my weekends. It was easily well over 60 hours per week of work total for a long period of time. And this allowed me to hit the ground running when I actually quit my job. I wasn't starting from zero. I had already made some significant progress. If you can do this well in advance, I think this entire process will be much smoother for you. Yes, you will have to make sacrifices while you're doing it. There is no doubt about that. But in the long run, I think it'll make things much easier, especially if you combine it with this next step. This is my number one piece of advice that I give people when they ask me about quitting their job. I tell them to create a cash parachute. A cash parachute is what I call an amount of money that you save up, set aside so that you have financial security when you actually go to take the leap. Okay, so here's a bit of an analogy. This might be stupid, but just stick with me. So basically, here's you jumping out of a plane, and you jumping out of a plane is you quitting your job. And then we have the ground, and the ground represents the point at which you need to be successful in your new endeavor. So if you just jump out of this plane without a parachute, you're going to hit the ground very fast, which means that your new thing that you're trying to do after you quit your job needs to be successful fast. But if you jump out of that plane with a parachute, well now, you have quite a bit more time before this thing needs to be successful. You give yourself more time and space. That's because this cash parachute can act as essentially a cash runway for yourself, so you don't go broke before your new thing starts earning you a sustainable amount of income. In my opinion, this will greatly increase your odds of success because kind of the number one concern when you quit your job is that you're gonna run out of money, right? And at that point, when you run out of money, you're gonna have to go back to some type of job. But if you can prolong the period of time where you don't run out of money, that gives you much more time for your business to be successful. I think it would be an absolute tragedy if you quit your job, started something that you knew could probably be successful, but you just couldn't give it enough time before you ran out of money. I would hate for that to happen to you. So personally, in my case, I actually saved up 3 years worth of expenses. I was going to give myself basically 3 years, Steve, you gotta make this work or else it's back to the drawing board. But fortunately for me, after I quit my job, it only took like a month or two for it to basically provide me with a livable income. So that worked out very fortunately for me, but I was prepared to spend that 3 years if I had to. If you want to know exactly how I saved up that much money, you can watch these videos on the channel. Last but not least, perhaps the most difficult step is actually taking the leap. In my case, even though I had everything pretty carefully prepared by following all of these steps in order, it was still very scary to actually go through with it. I remember like my stomach was churning the day I was going to tell my boss that I was quitting. But if you have everything in order, if you have your parachute packed, you have your route all mapped out, and you can hit the ground running, I think that you can have a really good go of it. At the end of the day, in most cases, I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, it's probably that you'd have to go back and get another job again or return to the same job. You're back to where you started. But I think if you're the type of person who will actually go through all of these steps and take the time and care and be really diligent about everything and really check and make sure everything's realistic, reasonable, grounded in reality, and you have a fighting spirit inside of yourself, I think you'll make it. And if you do decide to take that leap in the future, please feel free to reach out to me, message me on Instagram or something. I love hearing stories from you guys who are doing similar things. And with all that said, don't forget to check out trends on your way out if that's something you're interested in. I hope you found this video really helpful, and I wish you the best of luck with everything that you're trying to do. See you again soon.